start this seminar with introduction of the chairpersons of the day. The detailed introduction of the chairperson has already been circulated to the audience so that we can save time. And I start from Dr. R.K. Goria. Dr. R.K. Goria is Professor and Head, Forensic Medicine in Gyan Sagar Medical College, and also Professor Emeritus at JJT University, Rajasthan, and formerly faculty member in one of the medical colleges in Saudi Arabia. Former principal and at NC Medical College, Panipat, sorry, and former principal, Rana Medical College Hospital, Kanpur, India. He is founder president of this academy, that is Punjab Academy of Forensic Medicine and Toxicology. Dr. OPS Kande is the senior most or senior anesthetist in Patiala. He is past national vice president of Indian Medical Association. For years, he remained active in Indian Medical Association at national, state, and district levels in various capacities. Punjab Medical Council was revived with his tireless efforts, and till day he is very active in Indian Medical Association. Today he is suffering from some illness and he is in bed. I am not sure he has joined. Let us hope he is all well soon and joining the seminar. Dr. Neeraj Nagpal, he is a consultant physician and GI endoscopist, chairman and managing trustee Medicos Legal Action Group, MLAG, popularly known, ex-president of IMA Chandigarh State Branch. He is a director, Hope Gastrointestinal Diagnostic Clinic, Chandigarh. He is a member, editorial board, Indian Journal of Cutaneous and Aesthetic Surgery, member, editorial board of Journal of Indian Medical Legal and Ethics Association. He has edited books, Compendium of CPA, Medical Judgments, Volume 95 and 2004. He has written a chapter on medical legal aspects of dermatology and plastic surgery. And with this introduction, I welcome everybody participating in the seminar. Apart from the chairpersons, I welcome respected Dr. Jagdish Gargi, Patron Chief of PAMVET, chairpersons, then President of IMA Patiala, Dr. Ayata Shatru Kapoor. IMA Patiala is also the co-host for this seminar. I welcome all the office bearers of PAMVET and the members, and welcome all other guest audience today participating in the seminar. With this, I hand over the command of the seminar to Dr. Neeraj Nagpal. He will introduce our guest speaker, Justice Dhaliwal, and will continue with the seminar.
Well, thank you, Dr. Bhullar. It is my pleasant duty to introduce the speaker for today, Justice Paramjit Singh Dhaliwal. He was born in 1954 in Bathinda. He did his schooling in government schools. He did his BSc from DAV College, Bathinda in the year 1975. LLB he did from Punjabi University, Patiala in the year 1979, and enrolled as an advocate in the Bar Council of Punjab and Haryana at Chandigarh in the year 79 itself. He practiced at district courts Mansa up to 1992, and from 1993 till 2011, he practiced in Punjab and Haryana High Court at Chandigarh. In 2011, he was elevated to the bench of Punjab and Haryana High Court. He was declared an expert in Hindu law by Superior Court Justice Brampton, Canada, and since 2017, he is now the president of the State Commission, State Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission, Punjab. He's a thorough gentleman and a person who is valued by his friends. So with this introduction, I request Justice P.S. Dhaliwal to kindly start his lecture.
Good morning. Thank you, Nagpal Sahab and Mr. Bhullar, for inviting me for this function. So let us start with the function without wasting our own time. Already 10-15 minutes are over.
Firstly, please start sharing, sir. Please share your screen.
Yes.
Sir.
Yes. This, I think this is visible and
yes, sir.
Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes. 1 minute, yes. Yes. Now we start with the consumer complaints. First of all, how the complaints are filed. Complaints are filed with facts, but they must be in chronological order. It must contain the medical treatment record, if consent was taken or not, and the expenses details. This is for the consumer who will have to file a complaint. Evidence must include discharge summary, treatment taken at the particular hospital or the treatment taken by particular doctor, preferably medical opinion, and other medical supporting medical literature in this regard. Treating doctor and medical staff is not necessary. If you are in a corporate hospital or otherwise, they may disclose about that also. It must be supported by affidavit of the complainant or the any person who is competent for that purpose. Then we come to the reply, which is most relevant for the purpose of doctors. Reply has two parts. One is preliminary objections, which is treated as the case set up by the opposite parties. You will have to narrate everything, what you have done for the patient. Everything should be done preferably in the preliminary objections. Preliminary objection is, the legal language is virtually setting up of the case of the opposite party. What is the stand of the opposite party? Then you will have to reply on merit, each para-wise, every para of the complaint. It must be admitted or denied. And details must be mentioned where there is some variation or incorrect entries mentioned by the complainants. When you are filing your reply, specifically the doctor, they must give their qualifications, which are very material. Many times people simply say that this particular doctor, I have gone for a particular treatment, doctor was not qualified. And some GAMS or homeopathic was associated with this. This is sometime also in the cases of when say that Dr. Nagpal is treating me for a particular period for one emergency. He will have to leave this. He will have to, I am admitted in his hospital. He will give my custody to what is called as locum, I think, in medical terms, to another doctor. He may be a homeopath or a BAMS. This is issue of cross pathies. This should be properly explained that no such thing has happened in treatment. Other things which are material, consent. Consent must be explained. We will separately take up every issue separately. Consent is also required. And expert opinion, doctors can easily obtain. They must also next there with reply that this is the only standard treatment for particular disease. It must be supported by medical literature, authentic textbooks, not the paper printouts from the net only. I will request that they should annex their indemnifying insurance policies, and it is a necessity nowadays since the majority of the persons are coming for this relief and under the Consumer Act because no court fee is payable. And all this should be supported by the affidavits of the treating doctors. What I have found in many cases, say the case of the Fortis hospital came, the affidavit and the reply is filed by a person who is simply a director of the company. He does not know anything. Such things are not believable. These are one of the reasons why the cases fail. The doctors have to suffer these compensation problems. And everything should be supported by affidavit. All the treating doctors must file their affidavits. This is a necessity so that they may avoid this unnecessary harassment. Then there is a provision for limited rejoinder. Limited rejoinder, this is opportunity is given to the complainant, whatever case has been set up by the doctors, he is not supposed to create a new case. He will have to only reply the case set up by the doctor. We are saying that the opposite, generally it's the opposite party. Since here the opposite parties are doctors or the hospital, they must only reply to that case setup, which is generally put in the preliminary objections. Now, there is a problem regarding whether the medical fraternity is covered under that. This is a mistake. As on date, there is no change in the definition of consumer, deficiency in service, and service. Already V. Shantha Kumar judgment has, details have been mentioned that these are already covered under these. So there is no doubt regarding that till the new judgment comes. As on date, all the doctors are covered. Definition I have mentioned, but the words are included. The word includes any user. This is material. For that reason, it has been interpreted that doctors are covered under the services. Now, deficiency, that is not relevant at this stage. Deficiency will be only with relevant to the facts. If from the facts we come to a conclusion that there is some lack of treatment, some standard protocol has not been filed, then only then we will say deficiency in service, or the doctor or the hospital was not having proper facilities. If it is proved that particular patient came and there were not ventilators, breathing issues were there, many things can be taken into consideration. It depends upon the case projected before the court. In service definition, we have already discussed this service. Anyone go to a person and pay something, that will be covered under this, the service definitions. Service will have to be taken care whether it is in accordance with the standard procedure or not. If there is something lack, then it will be covered under the deficiency in service consequential. Unfair trade practice, or there is another term which has been recently added, unfair terms of the contract. Sometimes the contract is given by the particular hospital, specifically the corporate sector. It may be affecting those. They enter into a contract that which is known as package many a time. It also relates to the fact that when they are giving a package, they are charging excessive amounts. It has come to my notice while dealing with so many cases, specifically in these hospitals, they charge MRP and do not permit the medicine from outside the hospital. This is unfair terms can be covered under that also. Then there is unfair trade practice. This is a common system where we can consider otherwise, if whatever is not fair and it should be in consonance with the prevalent practice, we will have to look into that. Now we will come to how the orders are enforced. Order 71, earlier it was 25. Order 71, when some award is passed, some order is passed to enforce that, this is a civil remedy, civil part, under which we issue notice, sell the properties and other things can be done under this section 71. Other section is 72. 72 is a punishment. Once the decree is passed, award is passed by the consumer forum or the consumer, now they are all known as consumer commissions, then they can come under 72. Both can be simultaneously filed. Under this, there is a provision for sentencing up to 3 years. These some proceedings are summary in nature. This is for enforcement of the awards passed by the commission, maybe the state commission, maybe the national commission, maybe the district commissions. Now we come to the definition of the professional negligence. Professional negligence, I mean not only to the doctors, but other professions
Hello?
which includes.
हाँ स्क्रीन दिखावा
हाँ जी स्क्रीन हाँ जी
आ दे दिख रहा है
ये जूम मीटिंग चल रही है
हाँ
Please mute yourself. Rama Garg, madam, please mute.
कैमरा सीधा करो
Yes, now we may continue. What is professional negligence? It is very important to understand the same profession and negligence. Profession, if we go to it has been Jackson and Powell say that this is a occupation where mental skills are more material, not any other thing. This is a specialized skill of the, say, doctor, say, advocate, say, architect, all these particular professions which are coming under that with reference to that. It's more a mental aspect is to be taken into care.
और म्यूट
As
नहीं
there is
आऊंगा
a commitment to moral principles, not only particular general duty of honesty, but they are stick to moral principles. These are specifically regulated by ethics, conduct and ethics, which are relevant for this purpose. Being a professional, they have otherwise a high status in the community, in the society. So they have otherwise some duties also that they should maintain their dignity while in profession. Concept of profession is specifically with reference to the autonomy. We are not under anyone except our regulatory authorities. In this sense, if we say that it is the duty and which we are performing for the society in general, with our specialized skills in a particular field. Now come to the negligence, medical negligence part. Firstly, medical negligence can be defined as a misconduct when we are not following the standard medical protocols which are specified and there is a deviation from that. Every medical profession, there are different types in India. There is allopathy system, homeopathy system, Ayurvedic system, Unani Indian medicine system. They are all registered by under the various association that the MCI, DCI, and the other homeopathic central council, Indian medicine central council. All these are pathies, different pathies and different controlling authorities, regulatory authorities for them. At this stage, I would like to say that there should not be intermixing of the pathies while treating the persons in a particular field. Now the government is considering intermixing of the pathies, but till date there is no provision for the same. It may also lead to medical negligence. The general term negligence is defined as a breach of duty to act reasonably. In simplest terms, for medical purposes, we use this. Same is used for the other purposes also while determining the compensation like motor accident claim. Negligence is the common word used. Negligence can be make you liable in two parts. It can be criminal negligence also. It can be civil also. They can be individually civil and criminal and can be both also. You can be liable, anyone can be liable for civil liability and criminal liability. Professional negligence is generally regulated by the particular regulatory authority, say in doctors MCI, in advocates Bar Council of India, like this. Chartered accountants, similarly in other professions. Now when we are held liable for the medical negligence, then what type of proceeding we may face. Medical negligence, first we will go to the civil aspects. Civil aspects, so far as I will confine to the doctors only, because medical negligence field we have earlier we have discussed generally. Medical negligence civil part. Civil part is consist of two parts. One is the regular civil code, where is a very lengthy procedure, where the breach of contract or service for anything is covered under the civil law. Second is tort liability and under the Consumer Act. Consumer Act is a specialized act which has been specifically given with a purpose that the consumers who are not having resources, they can come to this part. Otherwise, civil suit is very costly. You will have to pay the stamp duty first, court fee, which is known as court fee. Then at every stage you will have to pay something for summoning, and so here it is only no fee is payable up to claims up to 5 lakhs. Thereafter it is a meager 200, 400, maximum 4,000. These are the, so far as civil parts are concerned, I have shown in the charts. Then medical negligence can also be covered under the professional regulatory bodies, MCI, DCI, whatever it is related. There is another criminal liability, which is more serious. Criminal liability may be a offense under equivalent to 304A, which is equivalent to murder also. There may be other injuries, maybe offense 388, 377. They are IPC provisions under which they can be prosecuted. Now, evolution, how this started in India. In India, with Jugan Khan case, it was decided by the Supreme Court in 1965. Thereafter, in Lakshman case, this was considered, and the following things were laid down. Person holding himself out as a practitioner of medicine must possess and bring to bear on his professional act a reasonable degree of knowledge and skill pertaining to his profession. His level of knowledge and skill need not to be highest order and must be very low, nor must be very low. Such professional of 3 duties: duty in caring, duty in deciding the treatment, and duty in administering the treatment. I will add here, when the patient comes to a doctor, he will give his symptoms. That this is known as diagnosis part on the part of doctors. Then come to the advice. Then come to the treatment. Doctor, this I have mentioned in the slide also. It is go ahead because now it has come at the relevant place. So I intend to discuss here also. Diagnosis is the condition and the status of the patient which doctor determines. Advice is the treatment options which are reasonable. There is a alternative treatment also. Doctor is supposed to explain so far as the advice part is concerned, and the attending risks involved in each of the treatment, which is best according to particular doctor who is treating in a particular field. This is required to be explained. And the treatment and the diagnosis are within the exclusive domain of the doctors only. Advice part is only where the patient participates. He must be explained everything and the possible alternative. This is my suggestion and my understanding in view of the changing provisions of laws, in view of the latest judgments coming from various courts. Then we will discuss with the consent part exclusively for that. Any breach of these duties is amount to medical negligence. I have quoted the briefs of from various courts. Reference can be made to the following cases: A.S. Mittal and another versus state. In this case, the previous cases were retreated and doctor was held curable, culpable under section 388, where serious negligence was attributed. P. Shantha Kumar is the main judgment which is affecting the doctors now, which has brought into the purview of this Consumer Act. This judgment say that the judges can decide all these medical negligence litigation because they are acute, because even if they are headed by the district judges and the high court judges. Medical services, that I have already told, this medical services is covered under section 2 under the new consumer protection also. There is no variation. Then now the major which is the most beneficial judgment for the doctors was Bolam test. It was for decided case by UK court in 1957. It recognized that whatever doctor can do, they are the best person to decide. Actually, this case was decided in pursuance to the Hunter-Henley case of 1955. The realm of diagnosis and treatment was held to be the domain of the doctors, and there is ample scope for genuine difference of opinion, on the basis of which doctors were absolved from their medical negligence. Thereafter came the Bletho judgment. This is also of the UK court, which diluted the Bolam test. I have narrated here how it has effect. Not bound to hold that a defendant doctor escape liability for negligence. They have discussed all these aspects. It depends upon the evidence which court can appreciate. Where the court can seek opinion also. The court can come from the evidence, come to a conclusion who is the genuine person, whether he should be absolved or the treatment is sound treatment as per the standard medical practice. If there was Hux and Cole case is there, this is also mentioned that the patient at risk, putting at risk at the liability and medical knowledge, it should also be taken care. Even Indian High Court in the Supreme Court in the latest judgment, Arun Kumar Manglik versus Sharia Health and Medical Care Center 2019. They have also said about the Bolam that it is not a sacrosanct now. You will have to look into the evidence and many aspects which are applicable. Even Malya Kumar Ganguly case, the Bletho judgment was followed, in which they discarded the judgment of Bolam test. One thing I will ask at this stage, I will add here, which I will try to discuss in later parts. That Montgomery judgment has also come. Now it is said medical negligence history traveling from Bolam to Montgomery. There is a sea change. Even the judgment, Court of Appeal in Singapore has also disagreed with the Bolam test, and the negligence has been fixed upon the doctors. the crux of the latest law, which is sum and substance, though I have mentioned from the extracts from this in slide, all the extracts from the judgment. Crux is that where volume test will not apply each and every case. It will depend upon the facts of the case, specifically with reference to the diagnosis, advice, and treatment. Now, another thing is principle which is used while deciding the cases is res ipsa liquator. This is a provision, if we say in the layman language, facts speak itself. Maxim is a medical cases is used only with caveat. It can only be alleged negligence derived from something which is absolute and occurrence could not reasonably have happened. Say when there is surgery, some seizure is left, some sponge is left. In these circumstances, these facts are sufficient proof of facts which are sufficient to support an inference that the opposite party was negligent. This is with reference to this aspect. The 4 extract I have given, doctrine can be applied in medical negligence with caveat, derived from something absolute and occurrence could not have reasonably happened. As per my knowledge which I have learned from you people, when you are going for a surgery, then the medical assisting staff are supposed to count their all these instruments used there, and after surgery also required to be counted, etc. I may be correct, may not be correct too, but I have learned from some of my friend doctors that this is the requirement. This is used for the purpose to avoid all these type of negligences. Now, but this principle is rarely used, but it only used when the facts itself says that something has been discovered due to this negligence and which was left at the time of surgery being conducted by the doctors at relevant point in time. Then the question of limitation also rises in such cases, because there is specified limitation under the Consumer Act, 2 years from the occurrence. In such cases, limitation is condonable because it comes from the date of knowledge. Suppose something was left at the time of a surgery, at the time which was performed in 1st of January 1918. Then 1920, this second surgery is performed. Then during surgery, this what we call this sponge or some seizure was found, or during the X-ray it was noticed that some particular surgical instrument is there. In these circumstances, this principle of res ipsa liquator is applicable. Many judgments are there in this regard also, where it was considered as a gross medical mistake. Where is a Spring Meadows Hospital, Harjot Ahluwalia versus Harjot Ahluwalia, Poonam Verma, Savita Garg, Samira Kohli, these are the relevant. Now we will come to the other judgments which I have mentioned regarding this Kusum Sharma, removal of malignant tumors by surgical operation adopting an interior approach in preference to posterior, thou failed to say in such cases. This is the specific understanding of particular doctor, which approach he has to appear. In these circumstances, we opt in favor of the doctors only when deciding cases. But because there is a common, both concept, may not be acceptable to one set of doctors. One set of doctors may be preferring to a particular approach, another may be approaching to another approach. The benefit goes to the doctors in according to my understanding, which I have been deciding also. These judgments are relevant. All these judgments are Kunal Saha. The case is only started from minor disease and ultimately led to this medical negligence. Now, which is most material which I would like to discuss with you is the consent. If the consent part is properly covered by the doctors while entering into any surgery or any other, whatever type of treatment it is. Firstly, even under chapter 7, clause 7.16, now consent has been made, this statutory has taken a statutory form. Even for this reason, the volume test cannot be applied. Because if you read the section, the clause 7.16 of the MCI regulation 2002, it reads, before performing any operation, the physician should obtain in writing, the word used are writing, the consent from the husband or wife, parent or guardian, in case of minor, or the patient himself, as the case may be. It is a necessity. This is not casual, as I say that, but there are exceptions to this also, which courts have derived. Specifically, this reference is made, is a necessity. Now, if we look into the consent part, consent, how the consent is to be taken. Firstly, what should be the preferable consent? In case of adults, the consent of the patient should be taken first of all, if he is in a position to give consent. I mean, he is an adult and otherwise competent, may not be mentally insane or any mentally insane, or he is maybe not having any other difficulty, or some court guardian may have been appointed against for him. In such circumstances, the guardian or the parents are natural guardian, the consent is required. Then one specific where the cesarean section in cases of ladies is done, then the consent of the husband is also necessary. Consent, now if we go to a still further, consent is an obligation of the doctor itself. Now that this slide showing, but I have left it contract the, so far as this concerned, I'm not required to read. I am just giving summing up of the sum and substances which I have narrated in the slides. The consent must be taken at every step. It is not that one step at one stage you have taken. Consent means every specific procedure which you have to follow as a doctor, consent is required. For the surgery, for anesthesia, or even the repeat surgeries, consent is separately required. This is very material. When you are taking a consent, preferably you record it. It should be in the language known to the person whose consent is being taken. It must be got signed and witnessed. Must be witnessed preferably. I will suggest maintaining the secrecy. It can be recorded also. You can have a consultation room where the patient or his relative, whosoever is permissible, can sit with him. You explain all the possible risks and chances of treatment, prognosis, everything you are supposed to explain to them, so that in future they may not say that what this has happened without informing them. Once you are giving everything telling everything that this is the possible risks and benefits of this particular type of treatment, and options, explain the options also, then I hope that you will not be unnecessarily burdened by the courts for the damages which are, or the compensation which are awarded in favor of the consumers. It will be more helpful. There are 3 conditions in which it can be waived. Consent is deemed to have been waived when the person comes in emergency. Supreme Court has said so regarding this. In motor accident cases, no one is many times there to give the consent, or even third parties are bringing to the particular hospital or doctor. Doctor is bound to treat that person in. Secondly, there is a absolute waiver. Doctor say whatever the patient says or his ward say, that whatever you think proper, you can give the treatment as per your best knowledge. But thirdly, when there is a therapeutic use also, when the persons are insane or otherwise, if disclosing the disease, it will create more problem. In those circumstances also, the consent is not necessary. The nowadays more in as per the class 7.16 of the MCI Code, the more stress is on the informed consent. All the judgments which I have mentioned in the informed consent say that consent should be informed, because there is a reasonable timing. The person which we call in the real terms as a cooling off period. When you are giving a consent, taking a consent, explaining everything, that these are the alternative treatment, this will be possibility, then they should be given, if there is no emergency, cooling off period for 1 day or 2 days. You decide that this can happen, you decide or take any other consultation, so that you may be saved from this unnecessary harassment which they are now filing the consumer complaints doctors are suffering. Cooling off period, the purpose is that we have explained to him on particular day. Thereafter we have obtained the consent, sufficient time was given. It will be more helpful. Now, the many mistakes which are done, which are common lapses. When taking, I have this procedure is considered as a minor and consent is not taken when they are going to the surgery. Ultimately, whatever may be the nature of surgery, it may leads to multiple complications also. Don't risk that this is a minor surgery, I just to give incision and remove it. Take the consent in every case. I have given this the lapses which you must notice. Procedure is considered as minor. Consent of relative is taken instead of patient when he is a competent adult and is in a position to give consent. Minor or intoxicated and unsound person, consent of the guardian can be taken. Consent should be procedure specific. Blanket consent is taken. It is of no help. It must be procedure specific. Consent for blood transfusion, that is also different part of the procedure. Many a time is not obtained. Reaction HIV positive cases are coming like this. Fresh consent is not taken for repeat surgeries. These things I have narrated from my experience, which I find from the various judgments and the consumer complaints. Lack of signatures of the treating doctor. Another thing which is many a time the consent form have alterations and additions. Alterations and additions. and cuttings are there. The trend of the courts, the judgments which various courts are giving is that alterations and additions, unless countersigned by the person giving consent, will be go against the person who is producing the consent form. He must get those countersigned. Alterations are material, and if there is a alterations, cuttings, it must be tested. I am stressing again. Otherwise, the court will draw adverse inference that this is a tampered with document and cannot be used in favor of the person who is producing it. Another thing comes regarding the expert opinion. It is also very material. Expert, say you are in Bathinda, the expert committee is appointed by particular authority. The civil surgeon will be the head, and 2 specialist doctors, say in the knee surgery cases, orthopedicians and anesthetist is involved. What happened? Why these reports are not accepted? Expert reports are not accepted because they are lacking reasoning. For every report, courts expect that there should be reasoned report. Reasoned report, I mean, when some expert is opinion is to be examined by the court, they must make out from the relevant document and the opinion that this is based on the same medical record. I mean, in expert opinion, relevant treatment must have been referred. What they say that we have gone through the medical record and the treatment is the standard medical, there is no negligence. This type of reports are useless. I will suggest the doctors, maybe whatever the expert body or the board which is constituted, they should give reasoned reports, not simply by going through the record and saying this. Such type of reports are not acceptable at all to the courts. And these are the judgments which are referred by Sithura Raman Subramaniam, Razani case, and V. Krishna Rao. These are the expert opinion. In these judgments, some of the judgments specifically said expert opinion is not necessary in every case. It needs to be taken where the cases are more complicated or the evidence suggests that expert opinion is a necessity in this case. How we assess the compensation, this may not be much help to anybody, but this is only for the purpose. We are standard judgments have been given by various courts and National Commission also. Generally, the principle of under the Motor Vehicle Act is followed. Sometimes we give the sum and substance, taking into evidence all the evidence, the expenses, etc. We only give the sum by guesswork, this compensation. If we give by the principle of motor vehicle, where the schedule is specified, under this schedule, there is a specific period mentioned, that is by the reference to the age, income, etc. is taken, and then the multiplier is applied. Say for 10 to 15 years of a person, the multiplier will be this much. This is specified in the schedule. 27 to 16, maximum 16 to 18% multiplier is applied. How we determine? Say my income is 50,000 per month, out of which 1/3 is deducted as expenses. Rest of the treated as my saving and for other purposes. on the whatever I am saving, that will be considered as the amount which will be multiplied by 12 and multiplied by the multiplier. This is the general method which we apply. May not be much relevant for determining the compensation. This is a mathematical calculation only. While determining the compensation, what we have to take into consideration, taking into the average of the country and the possible future increase in the income. All these things are taken into consideration while determining the compensation. Judgments I have referred, various judgment. Main judgment is the Sarla Verma versus Delhi Transport Corporation, and in which the procedure and the schedule has been mentioned. Now, these are the MCI obligation to the 6 which are taken care while deciding the criminal complaint, this consumer complaints. Must not be, these guidelines are also followed while there should be no neglect of the patient consultation, not to take charge of the cases where the locum should be of the same pathy, not the other pathies. Appointment of substitute, that is covered under locum, and the he, she, this is specified otherwise in the statute also. Another is Appendix 3. It is also very important. This is important evidence on the basis of which the record is required to be maintained by the doctors. Doctors are required to maintain the record. It also contains many times lapses, there are alteration, there is a missing pages, and there is a change of doctors. Names are not mentioned, even the prescription is not signed. It is a necessity that every prescription must be signed and should have been clearly written. This maintenance of record, it should also be free from any interpolation, additions, and corrections. And if at all some correction is done, it must be got signed from some attendant or the person. If patient is in a position to do it, then it must be got signed from him also. Another cases which I have found, missed chances. It also amounts to negligence. Missed chances, I mean that you are treating a particular patient, say this gallbladder stone. You are giving the treatment for the same or for removal of the same. Ultimately, it is found that it is a cancerous. Carcinoma is there, and you have not gone on that aspect. That also leads to medical negligence, because if you would have in time diagnosed to your best of knowledge and pointed out, then the person could have gone for that treatment. These things are also taken in care. Other favorable provision which may be to some extent both favorable to the parties, that is the consumer and the complainant, so that there may not be unnecessary litigation. There is now under the new act is a provision for mediation. Mediation, it is my suggestion is, as far as possible, case should be decided at the mediation stage. When we go to the court start, then the many factors come into, compensation may be enhanced in many fold. The mediation, it may lead to the just expenses and other. Doctor try to settle it at that stage. This is my suggestion. It will helpful to unnecessary litigation, various courts. Now I want to point out, every appeal is to be filed. There is a specified limitation period. If the appeal is to be filed against the order of the National Commission, then 30 days to the Supreme Court. If from that is SLP, but this is a condonable period also. Delay can also be condoned for reasons recorded there. If the appeal is to be filed to the State Commission, from the by order of the district commission, then the limitation is 45 days. If this appeal is to be filed from the state commission order, then this is a 30 days limitation from the receipt of copy of the order. In addition to this, in all these cases, there is a provision for condonation of delay. More delay can also be condoned, but you will have to give the reason for condonation of delay. Another thing which you have to do, if you have to file an appeal, then 50% of the amount awarded is the minimum requirement before your appeal is entertained. Say, if in a case compensation of 70 lakh is awarded, appeal will not be heard unless you deposit 35 days. For that reason also, mediation is more important. You will try to settle at that stage. Adverse inferences or cuttings in medical records are noticed majority of the cases. This I have already tasted. Change of pages also visible. All these should be taken care. Thank you very much. I hope that I may have been in a position to, for the purpose which you have invited me. Then we can have a interaction.
Well, thank you, Justice Paramjit. I must say I learned a lot today. Obviously, there are a lot of questions which come to mind
Yes, sir.
after such a talk. And if Dr. Goria and Dr. Bhullar will permit, I will start the ball rolling with a few questions of my own.
Yes, yes.
So number one, the IMA versus VP Shanta judgment of 1995 interpreted Consumer Protection Act 1986.
Yes.
Consumer Protection Act 1986 was repealed in 2019.
Yes.
How does VP Shanta and others' judgment apply to a totally new act which contains 117 sections instead of 31 sections in the 1986 Act, which covers many more things? So how are we interpreting? I understand today, as per the wording of the Consumer Protection Act 2019 and the experience we have of the judicial experience of the VP Shanta and others' judgment, that doctors, as per what is given in this act, are included. But
Yes,
my
sir.
question is very simple. One act which was interpreted by the Supreme Court was 1986 Act, and that act now stands repealed.
All right.
So how does that judgment affect understanding of another totally new act which is covering a vast ground more than what was covered by 1986 Act?
Yes. Thank you Nagpal sir. I clarify this. The act may have been repealed, but the definition of the sections, that is which are relevant for the purpose of determining whether you come under the provisions of the act are relevant. There is no change in the definition of consumer. The definition of Consumer Act 1986 and the present act is the same. I have prepared a comparative chart.
I know
The
that,
same is the situation with regard to the service, definition of service. Ultimately, it is the service which is covered under the definition. Once the definitions remains the same, then when we are interpreting the provisions, we will govern by those judgments. So far as the addition of the provisions is concerned, these provisions are the purpose of other administrative regulatory authorities, CCPA, etc. But so far as the complaints are concerned, consumer complaints, there is a definition of consumer disputes are concerned, then we will have only to look into main three aspects: whether you are a consumer, whether you are covered under the definition of service, whether there is a deficiency in service, or any other thing. For this reason, this judgment will remain in vogue and will not be unless set aside. I started at the outset by saying that this is a misunderstanding created by the statement of the minister at the union level that the doctors are, but they intentionally did not exclude by
Yes.
mentioning in the definitions.
So effectively, the government lied to the parliament
Yes.
when this statement was made.
Yes.
And do we have any avenue that we can hold the government accountable for lying to the parliament?
Yes. Yes.
Now, my next question is,
Yes.
in 2002, Consumer Protection Act 1986 was amended,
Yes. Yes.
and the clause that death of opposite party or complainant would not matter and the case would still continue. Right? I assume this provision continues in 2019.
Yes.
My question is not this. My question is this, that if a doctor dies today, he can still
I
have a
understand you.
case.
I will explain to you this. I understand this issue is before me. I have already given a judgment. This is a personal service. When you are availing the service, there are two things. One is a hospital. If this is a particular hospital, say Fortis Hospital, treating doctor is Nagpal. A Nagpal, not which just before me. Unfortunately, he dies. So far as the liability of his legal hair is concerned, they are not liable. But complaint will be maintainable against the hospital because he was performing on behalf of the hospital and the hospital is vicariously liable. This is what you want to say?
No, sir. My understanding is that the legal heirs are liable and any recovery of compensation can be made against the property of the
Oh,
deceased.
that is for that purpose. This is only for the purpose of recovery property where this is applicable in other cases also. Otherwise, complaint awaits against the dead person.
So my third question is, there are certain legal principles of double jeopardy, issue estoppel, res judicata, all of which say one person cannot be tried for one issue repeatedly in different courts. If one issue between two parties on the same facts has been decided by one court, the same case cannot be taken to different courts. But in the case of doctors, we have state medical council, police complaint, FIR, criminal courts, medical board formed by the state administration, complaint to authority under Clinical Establishment Act, complaint directly to Chief Minister, complaint to NABH, complaint to Central Consumer Protection Authority under CPA 2019, ECHS authorities, Ayushman Bharat authorities, NRI cell, women cell, SC/ST.
Yes.
Now these are all different judicial and extrajudicial fora where a doctor has to defend himself in addition to consumer courts. Because the Consumer Protection Act is in addition, it is not in derogation of any other law, to my
That's right.
understanding.
Section 3 earlier, now 100.
Agreed. My point is very simple. Why the same principles of law are not applicable to doctors as they are applicable to the rest of the citizens? Why should a doctor be hauled up before 9 or 10 quasi-judicial or judicial fora and defend himself for the same facts in the same issue between the same parties?
Now, I explain to you. So far as the civil and criminal liabilities are concerned, they can simultaneously go. Because criminal liability is for the purpose of punishment. Civil liability is the purpose is to compensate. Now the question is of multiple litigation, multiple fora which you have to face. says you will have to face MCI complaint.
Yes.
You will have to face the criminal case registered against you.
So I have given you a list. There are 11 places.
Yes, yes. These 11, 12 places you are saying, that is the lacuna in law which cannot be addressed. Only for this purpose we will have to agitate that there multiple fora should be avoided. There should be one fora for the purpose of, at least so far as the complaints are concerned.
Absolutely. So you agree with our point that multiple fora is a derogation of the law.
Derogation
It's
of
a
the law,
misuse of
we
the
have
law.
already, this is derogation of law, but the civil liability and criminal liability can independently work.
So there is no
But
denying that
these
fact.
other things, now another thing is, there are different type of law. There are statutory provisions. IPC is a substantive law. These regulatory authorities are the procedural laws. There is a difference. You cannot change the substantive laws. If you have to exclude yourself, you can only say you can challenge this on the ground that there are other multiple regulatory authorities to control the conduct of a doctor or a advocate or other sources, other professions. Why we are unnecessarily burdened with this? This you will have to challenge. Maybe to some extent you may succeed in this matter also.
So I have one more question. You said that for a cesarean, a husband's signature is needed. Now, my understanding is that the Indian Medical Council regulations of 2002
Yes.
Specify that any surgery which can result in sterility.
Sure. Yes. Yes.
My point is, a cesarean is an emergency. And if the lady is conscious, there is, in the standard practice, it is not required for the hust's signature to be there.
Yes. Yes.
The regular requirement is only if I am performing a tubal ligation, which is specifically
Hysterectomy, etc.
But even for that, sir, the government of India has given issues guidelines that only the women, only the lady needs to give birth. So there is a conflict in law at this point that if a sterilization surgery is being done, one side, the regulation says that we should take the husband's consent, and from other side, the MTP Act and the other things, the government of India regulations say that the lady is the only one whose signature is needed.
Yes, there is a conflict of law, because the reason is when the laws are framed, they are only framed by the babus. The stakeholders are not consulted in this regard. This is the problem. So far, and I think another question arose before me. I just explained to you. There is a dispute between the husband and wife. Ultimately, there was some fibroid. It ultimately found out to be melanoma. Husband is not ready to give the consent. In such circumstances, who will be? Only the wife will be the competent. It may arise many situations. Still, in these circumstances, we depend upon the circumstances, the evidence brought before the court. Why the consent of the wife is necessity only?
So the other question is regarding the consent. You mentioned that in India we require informed consent. My understanding of Samira Kohli versus Prabha Manchanda case is that we require real and valid consent, not informed consent. Informed consent is a concept which we have taken from USA. The real and valid consent is a concept we have taken from UK. And so far we are following the real and valid consent,
yes,
but
that
courts repeatedly...
I have mentioned in my detail. In the mention, I have explained that we are not accepting Canada, USA and Australia. We are following UK. Even UK in Montgomery case has reversed that.
Yes.
Now they also say that virtually it is informed consent.
Sir, but effectively, as of now in India, it is Samira Kohli judgment which holds the ground for regarding consent in India.
2019 I had also come.
Yes.
They say that volume is not sacrosanct. 19 judgment has also come. I have mentioned in
So
my.
not the volume. I am talking about consent. The consent part regarding the Samira Kohli judgment has yet to my knowledge not been overturned by this
No,
2019.
not have been overturned, but we will have to draw the inference only, whether the consent is reasonable or not.
I think Dr. Goria would like to ask a few questions.
Whatever I will give, I answer to the best of my ability and knowledge.
No, sir, we are learning from you,
Yes.
and we can't let this opportunity go not asking you these questions.
No, you must ask. I will also learn. Ultimately, I have to decide the cases.
Dr. Goria, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Nagpal, sir. So it is my privilege to listen to the Honorable Justice Paramjit Singh Dhaliwal, and he has beautifully and exhaustively told many things, listening to which we all doctors are fortunate, and we are gained experience and the knowledge that how to deal with, and he has told in a very good manner that through the various judgments, and that how the judges are looking at the various problems, and how we can avoid these litigations, or how we can lessen these litigations. So this was a very good experience, and I will like to say that all the doubts which were there, that has been made clear by the illustrious talk of Justice Sir, and I will like to say that we are very much thankful to him for all these things. And at this time, with questions from Dr. Nagpal, I don't think so. I have any further questions on this.
Ask a question, please. Dr. Goria.
Yes, sir.
I would like to thank Justice Paramjit first, and then what I missed in the talk was that there was no mention about the written consent versus printed consent, because now, as I know, the printed consent has been declared.
Dr. Saab, I have explained about that. It must be by the doctor and the language known to the patient.
Yeah, but has to be written, okay, or recorded one. Second
I will suggest that now there is the judgments are even for the contract we are entering with the insurance companies.
Yeah, and second,
they say that this must be specific.
Yes.
Whatever the exclusion clauses and ifs and buts are mentioned, on the one hand they give it, and on the other hand they take away. This must be specified to everyone.
Yes.
The person who is entering into a contract. This is a contract, even consent when you are taking.
Okay, sir, I got it. Second point
it should be in the language, and preferably must be handwritten. Is the best way.
Okay, sir. Second
so
point.
They will not say this is a standard form contract.
Second point which I missed in your talk was about the principles or the guidelines or directives issued by Supreme Court in Jacob Matthew case regarding the expert opinion from the medical board. Right, sir?
Yes, actually, Matthew case is mainly protecting the doctors from the criminal liability.
Yeah.
Now, number of judgments are coming. We are only dealing with the civil liability, which is a damage part, only compensation and damages.
Okay. So
as far as sir, there is a one question. There is a one thing coming out of this discussion, that whether the handwritten consent and or the printed consent. So so recently there is a judgment. Probably they say that it is okay if it is a printed consent, because when you are writing with the hand, you may miss many things. You may not remember at that particular time.
You may have this is one thing is, you may have a printed form. When you are explaining the risks, that cannot be in a printed form. You are supposed to mention with your hand that you have actually explained what you have told to a patient. It means that you have written that.
So is it okay?
Other part may be entire body is not a necessity that it should be handwritten. But some parts, and where you are explaining before treatment, at least you are explaining, you are writing also.
So is it okay that there is some printed part and then there is a additional?
Yes, there is
handed-
a space and you mentioned that.
Okay.
So the confusion arose from the RG Stone Clinic versus Mr. Khanna from National Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission, which considered that getting signatures on a pre-printed consent is unfair trade practice and 10 lakhs was awarded as damages. This case was taken up to Supreme Court by RG Stone Clinic. The Supreme Court has already granted stay on this case. So there is no grounds right now to hold that pre-printed procedure specific consent cannot be a printed form. It has to be
Mr. Nagpal, the result will yet to come. This is a
Yes.
interim stage, not relevant. I think I tell you one thing more. This standard form contract, this is termed as a standard form contract. Insurance company, bank loan, they are standard form contract. Now the Supreme Court has given judgments. When you are excluding something, it must be got signed specifically. It means you have spent that whatever we are giving, we are taking for these reasons. Whatever result we get from ultimately from Supreme Court, we are bound by that.
Sir, one more simple question, that most of the doctors, even government hospitals, are printing in their reports not for medico-legal purposes. What is the legal status of this statement or this line printed in the reports?
This is MLR, which is only for the purpose of criminals. Basically, criminal trials, they are giving that purpose.
Whether it has
They are only mentioning the injuries.
No, sir. Even in reports, say whether it is a blood report or X-ray report, they write it is not legal purpose.
Legal purposes, that will not exclude the courts from using the same.
So it is useful even in the consumer court.
One thing more I explain, because when we are interacting, many things come out. All the contracts, when entered into between the parties, they say that the territorial jurisdiction will vest in Delhi, not in Bathinda. But law says you cannot take away these things which are legally permissible. Statutory provision and estoppel provision are different. Statutory provision cannot be taken away by writings and all these things.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Sir, consent in Indian law is defined only in Indian Contract Act.
Yes.
Indian Contract Act says that consent is effectively a contract, and a contract is an agreement which is legally enforceable, right? My question is, supposing I have a patient who's donating a kidney to her husband, and she gives consent that she is willing to donate the kidney to the husband. After all the workup is done, she has signed the contract, she has signed the consent, and before the surgery, she or any other patient who has already given consent for surgery decides not to get surgery. Now, how does this remain a contract? Because the doctors cannot legally enforce this contract.
These are barred under section 41 of the specific relief, because they are personal contracts. You cannot enforce them. Only claim damages for that.
Okay.
There is a specific provision under the Specific Relief Act. Say I am an artist. You hire me for singing. I refuse to sing. As a singer, I refuse to perform. You have set up a stage and everything. The audience is there. You are not doing. These are personal services, individual services. I can only sing. For that, you can only claim damages against me, not other things.
So that is enforcing.
Mr. Nagpal, I tell you one thing. As you told that this is the organ part, multiple acts are there. Even many a time we do not know how many acts are involved. Only when the councils and other things brought before us, then we may know. This is the problem of India. There is not a single act affecting a
I-
particular decision.
That I just gave as an example.
Yes.
Let us say a patient decides to get a cholecystectomy done and he is given a consent, but just before he goes to the table, he says, I don't want it done.
Yes.
We can't legally enforce it.
Yes, you cannot force. Only damages can be claimed.
Okay. Well, in case there are no other questions, I think with permission of Dr. Bhuller, who's
So one
muted
more
himself.
question from my side. Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please.
Just it's a very good informative talk. One question you mentioned that selling a drugs at MRP in a hospital, you can't enforce on a doctor. Is it a punishable act or is it negligence?
No, no, no.
What-
I have not said it. This is not a punishable. I have said that they are not permitting to purchase outside the hospital. If I purchase from particular hospital, then they okay. Say I am getting a treatment in particular. So I only take the Fortis hospital. They said bring the medicine from our shop, not from the outside. This they do not permit. This provision is say I am getting 20% concession at a station, a chemist shop.
Okay.
On the MRP. This amounts to unfair trade practice, not any other thing. Punishment is different. Unfair trade practice is this.
Sir, I'm aware of this Fortis case judgment. My issue is any problem to the patient, Fortis hospital, which is responsible with the type of duplicate drugs and these scams which we keep hearing. How does an institution guarantee these efficacy of a medicine of which chain they are not aware of?
No, that is not possible. Then the drug controllers are responsible for this.
Yes, but the hospital will have to pay in case the patient does not respond.
Yes,
So
they are. Hospital is always vicariously liable.
So the point remains the hospital is not given.
When we are giving the judgments, we are only burden this hospital because they are only part of that person, hospital. Ultimately, they are working for an institution. Institution is liable. That is known as vicarious liability. We say, although the performing particular doctor, but ultimately it is for doing for the hospital which is he is engaged by him.
So the issue is, how does the hospital ensure that the drug which the person has bought from outside is not a spurious drug? Because the hospital is the one which is going to be liable for anything wrong going on to the patient.
Same is with the hospital, whether he is giving the genuine drugs or not.
So effectively, the hospital is taking responsibility for that drug. The hospital, through its own pharmacy, is taking responsibility for the chain from which it has procured the drug. Because the hospital knows it is going to be held responsible. But here, when you are allowing somebody to get, because there are so many medicines which have to be maintained in a cold chain. Once the cold chain is broken, then these suppliers, they sell it at 50% discount, 60% discount. Effectively, the drug is useless because the cold chain has been broken.
This has happened during COVID.
Yes.
Many drugs they were saying for 3,500 and they were charging 50,000.
Remdesivir, I have paid for it. 5,400 rupees we have charged, we have paid for it when the drug, actually I was getting at 3,400 initially.
Yes, that is what I have noticed. Such type of cases are coming practically. You see, now I tell you one case of civil hospital Rampura Phul. Maharaj Medicote supplied the drugs which were expiry dated. Another case is with me, because I cannot discuss here. There also, even in the bill, it is mentioned that this is expiry date. Even the bill, it is mentioned that bill is, say, the particular date 5/5/2020. The expiry date is mentioned July 17. In bill itself, which is not only one, thrice, 4, 5 bills. If you want, then this is a case that yet to be decided. Maharaj, I have already decided. upheld up to Supreme Court. Maharaj Medico, if you go to the net, you will find it. It is Percy negligence. Both the hospital as well as the chemist, both have been fined. They have to pay damages.
Well, it was a very enlightening discussion, sir. We are so thankful to you for the clarity you have given us on some very difficult issues. I think Dr. Bhuller is again unmuted, so I'll hand over to him to end the session.
Thank you very much. I
you
apologize
very much.
if I am deficient in something. I will try to improve it for future also, if need be. I have started my career, Dr. Sahab, from a small village in Breta, near Breta. I the remotest where no education ever since when we were studying. Then to going to various other village schools for middle class and this and that. We are fortunate.
So I missed. So with permission from the speaker sir and chairpersons, I have missed one VVIP in the meeting. He is Dr. Pramod Goyal, who has arranged this Zoom meeting. And also my secretary of payment, Dr. Kashdeep Agarwal, who had to leave in between due to some reason. So I request Dr. Ajata Shaktru Kapoor, President Indian Medical Association, Patiala branch, the IMA branch, who is also the host, to propose the vote of thanks. Dr. Kapoor sir, vote of
Yes,
thanks.
sir. Yes, sir. So, on behalf of IMA Patiala and the Punjab Academy of Forensic Medicine and Toxicology, I thank the learned speaker for a very detailed presentation of today's topic. I'm grateful to all the chairpersons for their valuable contributions to this seminar. And last but not the least, I'm thankful to all the delegates who have joined us in this virtual seminar on a beautiful Sunday. It's a very sunny day. It's a Sunday, so still you were with us. Thank you so much. Have a nice day and a relaxing day. Stay healthy and stay safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I am grateful to
Dr.
Mr.
Pramod, would you
Goyal.
like to add some?
Then I just want to thank Mr. Pramod Goyal that in the initially we set up all this system and we were in a position to this all PPTG on record. He helped me a lot. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you, sir. It's an honor for me, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you everybody and have a nice day. Thank you very much.
Special
very
thanks
much.
to Dr. Nagpal. Very nice
you.
moderation.
Thank you.
ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਤਿ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ
ਸਤਿ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ
ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ if anything I can improve in future just guide me
Okay, sir.
I tell you
sure,
one thing
sure.
when I am deciding cases I am not deciding cases without consulting some senior doctors.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. I'm closing it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, Dr. Goyal.
Bye, everybody.
Sir. Bye sir.
Bye.
Bye.